Welcome back. You're watching KTN Newsdesk. Many thanks for staying with us. Let's now get into politics. Wiper Democratic leader and CORD co-principal Kalonzo Musyoka has said that he is in the National Super Alliance to stay. Kalonzo claims some of his political enemies are spreading rumors that he is planning to ditch the newly formed opposition alliance. He was speaking in Kisii. Take a look.
I am in NASA to stay, and no attempt at ridiculing, at speculation by anybody from any quarters will derail us from staying in NASA and going for the highest bid, and that is the office of the president, being the flag bearer of NASA. It is within my democratic right to make it absolutely clear that I'm going for the presidency of the Republic of Kenya on a NASA ticket.
6 months to the general election, and the political temperature in the country continues to rise. And basically, as we talk about the opposition coalition, which is yet to name its flag bearer, let's now speak to our political analyst, Danstan Omari, joining us live from our CTA Center studios. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you for joining us here on Newsdesk. And I had just mentioned it is exactly 6 months to the general election, and we still do not know the flag bearer for the National Super Alliance. Which way will it go?
Well, Akisa, one thing that is very clear is that every Kenyan knows that there is a candidate for Jubilee, but there's no candidate for the NASA organization. It might be either out of strategy that they keep their candidate up to the last timeline that is set by the IBC, that's around towards April, for them to gain momentum towards creating a euphoria, towards creating a tsunami. So that might be a strategic move on the part of the NASA coalition. Two, it might be because they have no formula on how to arrive at somebody, so they are admitting that they cannot be able to settle who is their candidate. Three, remember, they know their competitor, Uhuru Kenyatta, has at one time in the year 2002 felt the mighty of the opposition when he lost very badly when the opposition united. So they know very well that if they announce, if it's strategy, then they know that Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto might be infiltrating with a position of trying to know who the candidate is very early for their missiles to be targeting one individual. So they are either mutating as a cloud. Remember, the game in politics is never be seen when you are coming. You really have got to ambush, and the president cannot take that position because already is an incumbent. So in my own view, it is still not very clear the direction they are taking. But if we take the story of 2002, then the opposition is trying to generate a lot of clouds with a view of hoodwinking Jubilee for them not to know who they are going to front come around April.
If at all this is a strategy, is it working?
The strategy might be working in the sense that if they keep their secret weapon to the last minute, it will work the way it worked in 2002. But if they have no strategy, then they are contending that Jubilee is still quite ahead. One, it might not be working because the voter apathy in their regions is based because nobody really knows who their candidate is. Two, it might not be working because everybody wants to hold their constituent. Remember, Kalonzo is addressing the Kamba Nation. Raila is addressing the Luo and Coast and some other regions. Wetangula is addressing, and Wetangula Musalia are addressing the Luya Nation. For these people to be held together, not to move to Jubilee, they will be talking that it is me who is going to be the candidate. But as I've said, in the year in 1992, the original Ford that was being led by Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, which was a bigger movement, a powerful movement than NASA, was destroyed, and they were split. Through Martin Shikuku, the late, through Kennedy Matiba, and President Moi got to be elected with the minimum of votes as compared to the totality of the opposition. It again happened in 1997 when the retired President Kibaki, Raila Odinga, and very many other people stood there, and the opposition split. President Moi retained the power. Remember, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto are very good students of one retired President Arap Moi. So we do not know which dynamics are there. And also, there is also a dynamic, even in case Uhuru Kenyatta is the candidate of Jubilee. Suppose NASA fronts Gideon Moi to be the candidate of NASA. Will William Ruto be the running mate of Uhuru Kenyatta? So the field is still open until it is known who is the candidate of NASA. For now, it is a game of nerves, and it is a game of holding each person's cards close to his chest without disclosing to the enemy what they have in store for the opponent.
And with coalitions, fallouts are often expected. We have just 6 months left to the general election. Not too much time, but of course, as they say in politics, one day is too much time as well. But do you foresee a fallout? And if there will be one, how will this affect the opposition as we head into the August 8th polls?
The fallout is likely to happen from both sides, depending on who they elect. If they nominate, for example, as I've said, the fallout in Jubilee is likely to happen if NASA nominates Gideon Moi as the presidential candidate. Therefore, Jubilee will have a fallout, and they will have to do a new formation. Uhuru Kenyatta might look for a new formation. If Musalia Mudavadi is given a ticket, that complicates matters for William Ruto in Rift Valley. If Raila Odinga contests, the voter apathy in Central Province might disappear, and instead people will have passion to vote. So there are quite a number of dynamics that are likely to happen depending on who the presidential candidate for NASA happens. You've already seen the fallout that is happening in Jubilee regions. The fallout is not only at the presidential level, the fallout will be within intra-party fallout, where candidates who will not secure nomination tickets have already started running away. Dr. Kilemi Mwiri has taken off. Lemi Kivuti has taken off. We are going to see others coming from Kibera. So we are likely to see a lot of movement, a lot of migration in the next 1 month, because for now, the only candidate on the ballot is one Uhuru Kenyatta. And who said he's going to contest? He might also reach somewhere and say, I've done it now 5 years, I want to do a Mandela. So for now, 6 months is quite a very long time to really analyze elections and make a conclusive decision that so and so will be in the ballot and so is likely to win.
Dunstan Omari joining us live from our City Centre studios. Thank you very much for coming in. And let's now go back to that press conference by Kisumu leaders and their concern over the voter registration exercise. So earlier on, we had from the Senator Anyang' Nyong'o. Let us now listen to what the Deputy Governor Ruth Odinga had to say.
That is my position. Still very...
You see, competition politics should not stop me from having a dinner with Governor Nanguma. In fact, it should not stop me from meeting Governor Nanguma in a social function. That's why we ask Governor Nguma, he should not be alienated from us, because we want votes. Those people will vote for all of us. Without those people being there, our competition becomes nonsensical. Asanteni sana ndugu zanguni, tuonane huko mashinani.
I would also like to urge the media that it would be also prudent sometimes to go around and look at what is happening within the county, because there are some places that maybe if you could highlight some of the things that are happening, where we have, for example, right now, huge numbers of people without IDs, and if you go, somebody did ask me that normally people just attend the rallies where Raila is. But what I saw in Kombewa was where they're looking for IDs. The numbers were just as if there was a rally where Raila was, because it was a lot. But there was a lot of challenges. For example, we had people with disabilities standing in the same queue the whole day. We have some places where we have hostile chiefs that don't want to turn up and help in the registration. There are places where we have cases of people who don't even milk and water would suffice to be able to support the mothers with children who have been in the line the whole day. You know, when you as media can highlight some of these things, we could also be able to appeal to some of this process is for all of us. We should not look at it and leave it to only the elected or the aspirants. We would like to appeal to the business community who can also be able to support us. Please come out. We would like to say, if you have a bakery, why don't you bring some bread and milk out for the children to be able to have in their lives? Support in any way you can to make this exercise go on. Yeah? So every other leader, anybody who's in Kisumu County who wants to support this venture, please, let's put our heads together, because we have only 6 to 7 days for this exercise to be over.
If you want to see how long the ID queues are, go to Rata
They're
school
having Rata
in Seme. The exercise started about 11 because they were late in arriving. Just go there and you see exactly what Ruth is talking about. Thank you,
And
gentlemen.
even in the schools like Onjiko
Like
today.
Onjiko
we
today, yes.
Rabur.
Yeah.
Today we are...
Deputy President William Ruto this morning inspected the progress of construction of the Mtito Ande standard gauge railway station. The DP said the SGR will significantly reduce travel time and cost for passengers and cargo, create jobs, transform local economies and spur growth. The railway, one of Jubilee government's campaign promises, is expected to be completed and ready for commissioning by June.
Na ujenzi ambao unaendelea hapa itabadilisha uchumi wa Mtito Ande, na hivyo ndivyo tutakavyobadilisha Kenya hii. Kenya hii haiwezi kubadilishwa kwa story tu, inabadilishwa kwa kazi. Safari ya kutoka Mombasa kwenda Nairobi ambayo ilikuwa ni karibu siku mzima, masaa 7-8, sasa itakuwa masaa 4. Unatoka Nairobi unakula lunch ya Mombasa. Ama namna gani? Na hiyo express train ambayo itakuwa inakuja hapa kutoka from Mombasa, masaa 2 umefika hapa. Masaa 2 ingine umefika Nairobi. Si ndio ni hivyo? Na bei yake ni nusu ya ile unalipa kwa basi. Hala? Unaona hiyo story iko mbele? Ama namna gani? Mzigo inabeba mzigo kubwa kuliko ile magari. Reli moja inabeba mzigo ya malori 100.
And on the international front, Malawi's High Court has granted U.S. singer Madonna permission to adopt twins from the Southern African country. Madonna previously adopted 2 children from Malawi, stirring anger among some Malawians who accuse the government of allowing her to skirt laws that ban non-residents from adopting. According to the judiciary spokesperson, Madonna was inside the courtroom when the approval ruling was delivered. The children were being kept in an orphanage in Malawi.
Malawi is one of the poorest countries, and being a poor country, we have also that challenge to raise up our children. So if somebody expresses interest to adopt any child and follows the right procedures, it would be dependent upon the determination of the court to grant that adoption order or not. Because we look at several factors for one to qualify to adopt a child. The court, when it was granting this adoption order, had looked into all those aspects. How and why should Madonna get these 2 kids, having the 2 other kids already in her custody? So it was like the court also endorsed that these two little kids need to be under good environment, and Madonna is capable of doing that. And secondly, we are looking at the welfare or the well-being of these little kids. We want them to become self-reliant adults and responsible citizens. So those are some of the issues which the court had to look into. These little kids were being kept at an orphanage within the country. So looking at the factors in the orphanage and what have you, and if somebody of Madonna's caliber expresses interest to adopt, and having the good history of adopting two other Malawian kids, we said no. I think it is better for the children to be taken care of by another person who can meet all the needs and other factors which ought to be done to the children.
Back into the country, Kenyan members of parliament have set in motion a plan to receive an estimated 3.7 billion shillings for 8 months. Their 5-year term will be cut when the general election is held on August the 8th. MPs insist that they must be given a severance pay in lieu of the months they feel entitled to. The Parliamentary Commission would include the MPs' final dues, the gratuity and, if agreed, the severance pay. MPs' pay will increase to 710,000 in their final year. The annual salary increase comes in April, the month they were sworn into office. MPs and senators now earn an average of 1.1 million Kenya shillings, which means that the taxpayer will have to part with 3.7 billion for the legislators. One of the arguments against such pay has been that it would trigger similar demands from county assemblies. Representatives have filed a case in the High Court on the length of their terms. Members of Parliament are already entitled to a gratuity calculated at the rate of 31% of their annual basic pay. All right, and to just talk about this, let's now speak to Ken Gishinga, who is a chief economist, joining us live from our city centre studios to understand whether the Kenyan economy, or Kenya basically, can afford to pay members of parliament another 3.7 billion on top as a severance pay. A very good afternoon to you. Thank you for coming in. Can we afford this?
Thank you, Akisa. I mean, if you look at the peer review exercise that was done last weekend, one of the challenges was that Kenya has a ballooning wage bill, meaning we cannot afford the salaries that we are paying. So for this to come in and for the MPs to come and suggest that they need more money, this means it will have a detrimental effect on the economy. So I think it's something we have to be very cautious about and wait very carefully.
Ken, going by the reports that we've gotten about this particular situation is that rumor has it that members of parliament are actually holding Treasury at ransom, saying that if you do not give us this, we will not pass your 2016-2017 budget. So how is this expected to pan out? And looking at the problems that the country is currently facing, we have drought in many parts of the country, doctors are on strike, and lecturers are on strike. Nurses the other day were also threatening to go on strike. Is this feasible?
As I said, this is something that's completely unsustainable. Let me say it's also not unprecedented, because if you remember a few years ago, parliamentarians did the same thing. They say the budget won't be allowed to pass if their packs are not revised. So I think the sad part is, I think Kenyans are looking to parliament for leadership. And I think leadership is lacking because, as you say, the country's growth forecast has been lowered. We are facing severe drought. We have strikes from doctors and lecturers, and we just can't afford to pay more wages. So the reality is, what can happen, and why are we even allowing Parliament to set its own salary? That's always been a historical debate. We have a salary and remunerations commissions that's supposed to be completely independent and completely objective on the issue of salaries. So I think this is an issue that must go to the court. We need to get a legal interpretation. But as an economist, I would tell you this is not spelling good fortunes for the country.
Speaking to the Kenyan Mwananchi, if at all members of parliament get what they want, what would this mean for our economy?
It would mean a higher wage bill. Already the government is spending way more than it's earning from tax collection, and that's why the government has to go and borrow money to plug a deficit. So if we were to grant these salary increases or these extra perks, this means the government will have to borrow even more. And already the issue of public debt is in the public arena. Have we borrowed too much from the foreign powers? So I think the political economy of the question is looking very untidy. And the sooner parliamentarians can get back to the reasonable table, the better for this country.
Ken, thank you very much for joining us. Ken Gishinga is a chief economist at Mentoria Consulting. Thank you for coming in. He's joining us live from our city center studios. Let's quickly cross the border into Somalia, where members of parliament gathered at the airport have started voting for the next head of state of Somalia, and a traffic ban had been imposed and major roads are sealed off in Somali capital Mogadishu. There had been fears that militant Islamist group Al-Shabaab, which has carried out many attacks in Mogadishu, may try to disrupt the election. What we're showing you now is live happenings at the Mogadishu airport, where voting has begun. Members of parliament, they are voting on the first round for the next head of state of the troubled nation of Somalia that has been greatly affected by terrorism, with Al-Shabaab being said to still continuing to launch attacks, a series of attacks on the area. Initially, that particular election was to be held at a police academy, but it has been moved to the airport, which is said to be the most protected or the most secure area or institution in the Republic of Somalia. So what we're showing you now live is the voting session for the first round. Remember, 23 candidates are vying to become the president of Somalia. So we will definitely be bringing you more details into this as we look at that live voting session live from Mogadishu. Voting process for the next head of state of Somalia. They're going on live from Mogadishu, and we'll definitely be bringing you more details of that particular session. Remember, we are also waiting for the press conference by NASA principals live from Capitol Hill. We'll definitely be bringing you that live here on a KTN News once they start addressing the media. And of course, there have been so many issues that have surrounded the opposition as it tries to put its house together into an opposition coalition that is set to hound out President Uhuru Kenyatta out of office in the next 6 months. It is exactly 6 months to the next general election. They're yet to name a flag bearer, but currently they said there will be a concentrating march on the mass voter registration exercise, which ends on the 14th of this month, which is next Tuesday. The IEBC is yet to hit the mark it had targeted, which was 6 million new registered voters. Currently, they are at 2.5, and a number of areas like Western Kenya are said to be a stronghold for a number of the opposition principals, still registering very low numbers. And of course, that particular press conference will be coming to you live here on KTN News. We wrap it up now. Thank you very much for joining us here on KTN Newsdesk. Up next, it's Business Today. Our sign language interpreter has been William Sila, and I am Akisa Wandera. Good afternoon.